age, and this new age is an age of piracy. No matter what it is, be it movies, music, merchant ships off the coast. Such kind of merchandise just goes off the coast and we don't really know how. Now, piracy is a global issue despite various laws. This includes cable piracy as well as on LCD, DVDs, CDs, online and other formats. Just one leak can have a major impact on your business. And there are a number of anti-piracy measures that have been adopted by various state governments. To speak to us further on this topic, please join me in welcoming on stage our speakers, Mr. Rajkumar Akella, Honorary Chairman, Governing Council, Anti-Video Piracy Cell, Telugu Film Chamber of Commerce, and Ms. Lohita Sujith, Director, Corporate Communications, MPA, India. Before they begin this session on anti-video piracy, let's have a huge round of applause for them, please.
Good evening, everybody. Really important subject which I think intertwines both the exhibition industry and the content industry. I have a small presentation for you all. And we'll try to finish this session on time. So let me really start by saying, if we can have show of hands of how many people are from the exhibition community here, right? Which chain? Right, and anybody from the technical side? Okay, so what we're really going to talk about today is protecting, the first measure of protection when a film is made and when it's shown to the audience, and that protection really happens at the cinema. As you all may be aware, it takes a lot of courage. Creativity of all forms takes a lot of courage. At the end of the day, it's not just the producer's money, but it's the investment of talent, it's the exchange of ideas, and all of this comes together to put out a creative picture for you on the big screen. And I think from the exhibition community's point of view, this should be equally valuable for all the theatre chains as much as it is for us to show, the audience our film. So it's, like she said earlier, I think technology has been the biggest game changer. It's unbelievable how 10 years back, less than 20% of the world was connected through the internet. And today, we have over 43% of the global community linked on the internet. And this has enabled us to do a lot of things, not only exchange ideas and exchange creativity, but for us as a creative community, the whole thing of cool, the whole thing of, fast sharing of ideas has also led to a huge issue, which is fast sharing of files. And it's really led to the problem of piracy. And I'm sure all of you all know that 90% of all newly released films find their way on the internet through camcording, which is recording in the cinemas. So this continues to be our biggest issue. So let's watch a short video of how fast this content spreads on the internet and why it's such a big issue for us because of the, the speed at which this is delivered. Can we play the video, please? So that's how fast it happens, and which is why we want to emphasize that it's extremely important for exhibitors to take measures to see that the content is protected not only in the week of release but day after, because at the end of the day the audience comes for the experience of the cinema, and if they can watch it elsewhere, why come to the big screen? Not only that, I think it's also facilitated, and I think Raj here will talk about the entire maze of piracy, which makes it very, very difficult for us as content owners to protect our content. We also are facing a new issue on the internet, and this could be very interesting for you all. A lot of websites supposed to be as if they are legitimate websites. So nobody can really say if you're on movierules.com whether it is an original website or a fake website. So this is extremely important to realize here, and the content experience as well is very superior. We find a lot of movies in HD quality that is available, and not to mention that this now gets easily shared through apps. In fact, there are apps which you don't even need to download from the Play Store. All you need to do is download an app which facilitates the sharing of apps. So it's becoming as critical as that. What this all leads to, and why we are gathered here today, is to actually unite the entire creative community, because at the end of the day, somebody watches your film illegally, and the person who facilitates that is earning a lot of money, and that really isn't benefiting us as an industry, the government. In fact, it benefits only the pirates. So if we can just see, watch a small video on really what we refer to as good money gone bad, and the effects of this even on a consumer.
The profitability of ad-supported content theft when crime does pay online. Digital thieves profit by stealing other people's content and promoting it as their own. They use advertising from well-known brands to try to make their activities seem legitimate and to increase their profit margins. Online content theft is a big problem. All you have to do is follow the profit to see why. Criminals are making hundreds of millions of dollars each year at the expense of advertisers, creators, and consumers.
We don't like to think that crime pays, but unfortunately this research shows that it can.
The Digital Citizens Alliance research reveals ad-supported content theft sites are making at least $250 million a year. And this doesn't even account for subscription revenues, where they make many millions more, with well-known, legitimate organizations seeing their brands placed on rogue sites and criminals coming away with millions.
In our sample size of about 600 websites, they're making about $250 million a year. And all you have to do is look at the margins they're making. They're making margins from between 80 and 94%. And the only way you make a margin of 94% is when you're stealing someone else's things, because you can't make that margin if you have to create your own. Some of these sites can make as much as $4 million in a year. Even small operators can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a very large problem.
Digital content theft is not a victimless crime.
It's damaging brands because we're seeing ads associated with illegal activities, and that's not something any brand wants. Advertisers, when they go online, want to be associated with credible brands, and unfortunately, their ads are showing up on rogue websites that are promoting illegal activities, stolen content, and when they get associated with stolen content, that damages their brand. We now live in a world where there are millions of citizen creators. There's people who sell designs on Etsy. There's people who put pictures and other things, their expressions, on Facebook. We have YouTube millionaires who make money by creating videos and essentially having advertising around them on YouTube. We have people who put pictures of their children online. We have great expressions and, frankly, businesses that have been created through citizen creators. And we risk all of that when we allow content thieves to steal their work.
Content theft harms consumers in two important ways. One, it makes them complicit in large-scale criminal activity, potentially exposing them to fines, jail, and criminal records of their own. Two, it exposes them to viruses, malware, identity theft, ransomware, and more.
Internet consumers want to have confidence that the sites they're going on are real and safe. They're going on sites because they think that's an easy way to get a movie or a TV show or a song. And when they go on these sites, They're not only helping those bad guys make money through advertising, but in some instances, they're coming away with viruses and malware and other things that mess up their computer. So the old adage that nothing is free is really true when it comes to content theft. Just like they think twice about going to a sketchy neighborhood, you have to think twice about going to a sketchy website or a rogue website. You may go there because you're trying to get a song or a movie or a TV show, and you may get it, but you may also get something you didn't expect.
It takes all of us working together to stop thieves from profiting at the expense of consumers, advertisers, and creators.
The Digital Citizens Alliance is a...
So this is the kind of revenue estimates that every pirate site can make in a year. And like it was said earlier, this is extremely a big issue for all of us, because not only are they earning money, but they're also doing a lot of other businesses, which I think Raj will talk about later, which affects consumers. So why is this extremely important for us as a market? As all of you all would know, we are the second largest internet market. A lot of studies that were released earlier this year also indicated that most of the consumers are accessing content on the internet. In fact, 45% access entertainment content through their mobiles. Most of us are connected on our mobiles. So it's a very fast-moving audience. There are various devices where you can watch content today as you go along. And this has helped the pirate business. In fact, earlier this year, when we did a study which was released at Ficky Frames in March, we had a lot of support from the industry, because these were the kind of estimates that were put out for sites. I mean, just have a look. Even if you're a medium and small site, you're earning $2 million a year by doing nothing. All you do is help camcord a movie or distribute illegally a movie on your site. You get subscription money. You unknowingly get advertising money from brands, and that's the kind of money you're earning without paying a single dollar of tax. And the exhibitor, on the other hand, at the end of the day, if you don't have audiences at your show, you still have to maintain your theater, you still have to innovate, and you still have to be in a forum like Big Cinema Expo to get the future experience for your consumer. But the pirate just copies you and profits probably, 10 times more than you do. So this is really a pain point for all of us, and one of the biggest issues that we're also facing is high-risk advertising. The fact that most of these sites are surviving on ads which are completely illegal, which promote gambling, pornography, and various other activities. And we are taking a lot of steps, which Raj will talk about, to address this with the government and various other stakeholders. This is also to give you an example of kick-ass torrents. We took a very, very severe action. I think MPA across the world, along with stakeholders, brought this site down. It's back, but while it was on, this is the kind of numbers and profitability that this site made just in about 12 years. So what can we do together as exhibitors and as the content community? And we're very fortunate to have Mr. Kulmeet Makkar, who will address you all and probably share experiences. But it's extremely important for us to collaborate with the exhibition industry and all stakeholders to try and put out communication that makes consumers aware. It's not just a disclaimer which you put at the cinema that piracy is illegal or camcording is illegal. It's really doing a lot of activities together to help build awareness in communities. And I'd like to share with you that the Motion Picture Association worked in two important markets, the UK and the Australia, with the exhibition community. And this is the kind of effort that they brought forward. Can we please play the video? And we'll come to this later.
Among
Can we play the next one, please?
Can we take one? You are brilliant.
I'd like to end by saying that just 2 months back, there was a global initiative called the Global Federation of Theatres that launched across the world, and it's basically a tie-up between leading cinema theatres, and they have put out this initiative to work with content owners and the rest of the creative community, and I really hope that as we go along, we can launch something similar here as well to protect not only our community, but also the theatres that people watch this cinema in. Thank you. Yeah, sure. So before Raj really, gives you a lot of work that, talks about a lot of work that we do together, I'd like to say that in 2012, the Motion Picture Association had a strategic alliance with the Telugu Film Chamber of Commerce, because they're the only, probably the only anti-video piracy cell in India that works very closely not only with the government but with law enforcement. And because of their support, we've been able to launch a lot of enforcement measures, and that's, I think, what he's going to talk about in detail.
Yeah, thank you, Lohita, for the wonderful presentation and all the kind words. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Big Cinema Expo. As Lohita presented, shown to us many forms of piracy. There is source piracy, there is hard goods piracy, there is online piracy, there is cable piracy, and so on and so forth. So I come from the Telugu film industry, where we actually set up this dedicated anti-video piracy cell about 10 years ago, and we have achieved considerable success also partnering with the Motion Picture Association, and we've been actively working towards collaborating with all the other industries. So we have achieved considerable success in dealing with this piracy with a multi-pronged approach, and we also got some good support from the government locally. So recently we set up a dedicated anti-piracy crime unit called TIPCU, the Telangana Intellectual Property Crime Unit, which works very closely with the creative industry to evolve, better strategies from time to tackle piracy. But at the same time, I just wanted to basically present a slightly different perspective today of piracy. Oftentimes we regard piracy as a very unidimensional problem. But if you see, basically there are many dimensions to piracy. So, we all would know a lot of times we want to pay for the film that we want to watch, but it is not available. So then the issue is one of access. So the problem is access, and sometimes we can't afford the kind of tickets that are there in the multiplexes or whatever. Then the problem is that of affordability, and sometimes basically you don't have a cinema theater in your vicinity. Then the problem is that of infrastructure, and sometimes it's a lot of actually dimensions. If you see, sometimes you feel alienated going to a multiplex. Then it's a social problem. So there are many dimensions to the problem of piracy. So unless we deal with this problem in a very holistic manner, it's such a vexed issue that it's been going on for ever since the video cassette recorders have been invented. So the issue of piracy has been going on. So unless we actually evolve a very holistic approach to this problem, I don't think we will keep on happening, we will keep on actually discussing this problem for the longest time in future without really making too much progress. So in fact, I just wanted to present you slightly, the scenario in India especially. Lohita has presented, Hollywood perspective. From a very Indian perspective, we have some very unique problems in India. So I just wanted to touch upon those topics. Yeah, just taking a step back and taking a very macro level view of the problem. A lot of you would know this is a scene from a film called The King and I. It was made in 1956, and this film, as you know, basically it happens in Thailand, as formerly known as Siam. The king of Siam wants to learn English to communicate with his Western counterparts. So he basically summons an English teacher to his country. And at that point in time, Siam was a very closed community. So the king's children, they are totally, consumed by the idea of Siam, and they don't really know anything about the outside world. So when this English teacher presents an atlas to the children and points out that, so here is Siam, this tiny spot on the atlas. So they are very, very shocked and surprised to see that Siam is so small, the world is so large. In fact, in their mind, they have always been thinking that Siam is the world, and there was nothing beyond. So, I got reminded of this, scene when I thought of how Indian industry has been operating for the longest time. In fact, we have always been, self-satisfied with whatever little achievements that we got, not really thinking that the world is, our achievements are so tiny in comparison when you see, across the world. So we often actually come across these things, that India is the largest producer of feature films in the world, and India has the maximum number of admissions every year. While this may be true to an extent, but this is mostly hype when you look at the real facts. The truth is that we have lots and lots of issues that we tend to sweep under the carpet. We have the lowest screen densities in the world. We have the lowest per capita movie viewership if you really look at the major territories in the world. We have the highest rates of piracy, and we have the highest taxes on cinema. And we have the most fragmented industries. Of course, the diversity is all beautiful, but we are also most of the times the industry is not speaking in one voice. They are actually, pulling in different directions, which is really, really hurting and harming. So we are a very fragmented industry, and we are also one of the most opaque industries. Absolutely no transparency about, anything. So basically, nobody can really evolve a solution to that kind of a thing, because you really don't know what is out there. It's like a black box. So, and because of all these things, we are actually witnessing a negative growth, whereas actually the hope is that there is so much potential, but year on year, we are only seeing negative growth, which is a terrible, terrible thing. So unless we address each of these problems, we cannot just wish away that piracy will disappear one day. It cannot happen, because these are really, really serious problems. So the idea is actually we need to improve the ecosystem as a whole. We need to at least acknowledge that piracy cannot be just dealt in isolation. It has to be like we have to improve the landscape, and this is a systemic problem, and we cannot actually address it with a cosmetic solution. So, okay, so there are too many numbers on the screen, on the slide, but you would see that in US, 120 screens are there per million population, whereas in India, we just have 8.5 screens per million population, which actually shows how much necessity there is to increase the screen density. But till very recently, the industry never came together to actually address this issue or highlight this issue, which is a pity, considering that we are actually being critical today of ourselves. We are actually introspecting so that we can come about with better solutions to talk about these issues. As you could see, China had 3,527 screens back in 2007. In just a decade, they are the #1 country in the world with the highest number of screens, which is almost like 41,179. So if you see, In US, per capita movie consumption is 3.22 movies per capita every year. In a tiny country like South Korea, the average is 3.87. But in India, we have a population of 1.32 billion. Only 4% of our population watches movies in theaters, and also our per capita movie consumption average is less than 1.5%, which is a terrible thing. If we just actually work towards increasing our per capita movie consumption, to the level of South Korea, we could actually see a revenue of almost $8 billion, which is like more than 400% growth, and that is a huge number. And we are not really, acknowledging this fact. We are too happy celebrating our 100 crore films, and I don't know for what joy, So there are actually several such issues that we need to really be, introspective about and critical of ourselves, and work towards coming up with some kind of very, very effective solutions to these. So this actually gives you top 25 cities in India with the maximum number of screens. You won't be able to read all of them, but you would see the band out there at the top, Chennai, Bangalore and Hyderabad. There actually, we as South Indian industry, we always feel we consume so much cinema, we must be having too many theaters. But if you look at these numbers, we actually rank way below a lot of actually other cities in the country. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done out here. So we have visionaries like Mr. Shankar, Mr. Amir Khan, Mr. Rajkumar, not to say that there are many, many others, accomplished filmmakers, but some of these, these filmmakers have shown that when we really have that conviction, we can reach out, we can, basically conquer the audiences across the world. So we need more such visionaries in our movie fraternity to be able to really, really make a difference. So, as I said, all these statistics, all these, basically issues that I was talking about, we need to basically understand them thoroughly. For that, we need to have data. In fact, I also had, apart from the Telugu Film Chamber's anti-video piracy cell, I also represent ComScore, which is a data measurement company. It's a global box office measurement company. So where we actually try to communicate to industries the value of data. And we actually collect 95% of the global data, and we are actually working towards getting that kind of data in India as well. So we see that when you have information, that will actually tell us the real potential, the hidden potential. As you can see now, we only see this superficiality. But if you really see that, there could be so much more potential. And we need to understand that. For that, we need to make it more transparent. When we have data about issues, we can actually, evolve better policies, and better policies can actually help build better infrastructure, and better infrastructure can address issues like piracy. So these are actually statistics again. Just about 8 years back, online piracy was zero. As reported in some of the reports. But in less than 10 years, it has become a monster, because we never actually understood how rapidly it was growing and taking over our lives. So in the recent times, we have actually impressed upon the government that online piracy has, the complexities. It is just not a technological issue, but the challenges are also jurisdictional. So we need to evolve a policy which can cope with these challenges. So these are the solutions that we had proposed, that it has to be a dynamic kind of a solution. It has to be collaborative, because we need to work with all the industries across India and the world. And the solution has to be a very structured one. We have to be very proactive. It should not be reactive, and it has to be real time. We all understand that if we can't actually curtail piracy in real time, the damage is already done, and it doesn't really help. So it has to be a result-oriented kind of a solution, and this is what, to some extent, we were able to achieve in Telugu industry. We are actually still working on improving the, basically strategy better. So this is something that Lohita has already shown us, the pyramid of piracy, where exhibitors really can play a very, very important role, because 90% of the source piracy that happens from the cinemas through camcording. So together with Motion Picture Association, we actually had initiated a program, a campaign called Movie Cop, wherein we actually had trained about 9,000 cinema staff across India over the last 3 years. So, but still this has to go on. We need greater participation from the theatre community, where we all must believe that this is not somebody else's job. We need to collaborate to protect our own interests. So we need to come together and do some innovation, how to engage with the audiences, how to sensitize them, and how to basically stop camcording. So this was like some 2 years ago. For Bahubali, we did some raids in Jabalpur, and that was the origin of piracy for Bahubali. And we understood that when we raided Jabalpur, this piracy syndicate, we understood that this person got it camcorded from Calcutta. And he was actually, at that point in time, he was in the US, in Los Angeles, and he was actually running all these activities from there. And he had a network all over India. And he was actually working for a top IT company and drawing hefty salaries, but still he was maintaining some 65 pirated websites. So this actually told us, if you could see the kind of network and tentacles that he has all over India, you would see the complexity of this issue. A film like Bahubali, with such popularity, we had so much difficulty, going after these pirates who are spread across the India and world. So every passing day, this is becoming even more complex. And most recently, for the Bahubali sequel, we saw a different nature of piracy, wherein some of the theaters, in fact, actually, very tragically, some of the theater guys actually collaborated in ripping off the pirated content from the hard drives, and they sold it to some syndicates in Delhi, who in turn reached out to the producers saying that they need some kind of ransom to actually stop the piracy, else they will publish it online. So, this is a very, very serious, menace. It's evolving into a very, even more threatening kind of thing that we need to immediately understand how it is, evolving, and we must actually collaborate to stop this. So this gives you a sense of the kind of pirated websites. We have identified some 146 websites which have a cumulative value of $848 million. This is something that Lohita already indicated in her presentation, where pirates are making millions and millions of dollars, and the gravity of the issue and how really we need to be aware of these things. And a lot of these servers are sitting in US and Canada, Panama, Switzerland. So governments have to basically help us to actually go after these pirates sitting in other countries, so that this has to be dealt at a level where maybe a CBI kind of agency, that kind of powers should be vested in that agency to really deal with these geographic challenges and jurisdictional challenges. So we need a 360-degree solution, and this is something that we are trying to implement in Telangana, and we are also trying to actually share this with other industries across India, where we are actually looking into social media piracy. We are looking into rogue websites and torrents through something called IWL, the infringing websites list that we want to put together. And as Lohita mentioned, high-risk advertising, we want to basically sensitize the brands who are actually supporting illegitimate websites. And there is also camcording syndicates and camcording cinemas that we need to go after. And also user deterrence. This is something that we are actually working with the ISPs, so that they can sensitize the users whenever they try to open a pirated website. Maybe there could be a pop-up notice saying, you please actually watch out about what you're going to download or stream. That could be some kind of deterrence. And again, for physical piracy, cable piracy, we need to be having these mechanisms, and we need some e-courts where faster prosecution of video piracy cases can happen. And most importantly, one of the issues where it really concerns the theatre fraternity is the outreach and rewards and recognition programs, where you need to basically sensitize all your staff across India so that they can effectively stop this, and also they can refrain from unfortunately sometimes collaborating with the, conniving with the, with the culprits. So this is where we need maximum participation, at least on, basically there may be a lot of diversity across India, but on issues like this, all the cinemas need to come together and they need to evolve some kind of a standard operating procedure where they need to, how do we sensitize the, the patrons the maximum, and how do we make them partners in our fight. So this is something that we must do, and this is a model that we have evolved. 6 buckets we actually put the problem into: social media piracy, and websites piracy, money trial, payment gateways, user deterrence, and source piracy and physical piracy. And also use technology to the fullest, because today we see that actually technology is what is driving piracy to a great extent. So why can't we also make use of the same technology to the optimum, to be connected, to really understand this problem better in real time across all the, across the industries. We all could be connected through technology, and this is a dashboard that we are actually developing right now, which will connect all the stakeholders in real time so that we actually can share knowledge, we can share basically information, intelligence, and immediately evolve strategies to actually stop piracy. Yeah, so basically, Movie Cop is an initiative that we undertook along with the Motion Picture Association 3 years ago, as I just mentioned. So we trained 8,000 cinema staff across India, but this is just a very small initiative looking at the, the magnitude of this problem. This must continue, and with your participation, with your support, and with your ideation, we could do so much more. And basically, we need to also reward whoever is trying to help us in this really prolonged battle that we have in front of us. Thank you so much. May I now request Kulmiji. Kulmiji is the CEO of the Producers Guild, Television Producers Guild of India. Sir, kindly share a few words with us on this issue.
Thank you, and very good afternoon, evening rather. My takeaway from what I've really seen in the presentation made by Lohita and Raj, I would say a couple of things. One, if you look at the data, the numbers, what is very alarming is number of screens in the country. And why I'm raising this issue? Because in my mind, that's a clear function of how you protect your revenues in cinema hall to reinvest that income and the money you make in existing cinema halls to grow the industry in India. And it has a direct relation with the theft or the piracy which takes place in the country. So we have to look at the source. Second, extremely important, a session before this session was the technology. It's about, we speak about laser, we speak about LED, we speak about 3D, we speak about 360-degree viewing experience. We invest in all this, we create this as a model. For whom? For the audience experience. I think what we need to protect ourselves from, people who walk into our cinema halls and capture that high quality images and transmit on the pirated website which has been spoken about. I think we as a cinema exhibition industry, I'm saying the entire value chain right from the producer up to the exhibitor. All of us, we are partners in this. We need to protect our content. We need to make sure that our content is not leaked. So as an industry, as MPA, Telugu Film Chambers, Film Television Guild, we are available for any support in terms of setting up procedures, working with you to train the staff. But the onus of making sure that the leakage does not take place from cinema halls, the cinema exhibition industry has to kind of step up and make sure that let's treat intangible, let's treat the intellectual property rights as tangible goods. I'm sure you would agree if there is a shortage of even a small water bottle in a cinema hall, and when you check your inventory, you know the losses. But how many people have recorded the movie from a cinema hall? I don't think we have inventory of that. So somewhere we need to step up. somewhere we have to be together on this. If we can't stop the, source, which from where the material goes to the pirated sites, I think we will lose out as an industry. So my request, my humble submission would be, let's work as a team. We all are together. We need to grow this beautiful creative industry into a larger industry than what China is. Why should people give numbers of China being from 4,000 screens to 40,000 screens? Why can't India achieve that? I think all of us, we can work together, and let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any of you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Any questions, please? Thank you so much.